Hello, LVAD Nation. How you doing today? I have a special guest with us, Mr. Kevin McCarthy, a.k.a. the Tinman. How are you doing today, sir?
Sean, I'm doing great.
So
Thanks for having me here.
I had to let you know that I was quite jealous when I was thinking of nicknames. The first thing I thought of was the Tinman, and that's how I found you because you took it first.
That's it. I actually had I had a friend of mine when I got my heart transplant. She was one of my rehabs when I was doing cardiology rehab, and she was a big fan of Wizard of Oz. So
Okay.
she told me straight up, "You're now called the Tin Man." So that kind of stuck with me.
That was a great name. Great name.
And the 2009 stands for 2009 was the year that I had my heart transplant.
Awesome. Awesome. So how long did you have your LVAD before you got your transplant?
I had the LVAD for about 10 months.
Okay. That's good. So let's go all the way back to the beginning and what started your troubles with your heart.
Well, actually, I started. I was a volunteer firefighter and emergency medical technician, and
Okay.
I just happened to be driving to work that day, and I started really sweating bad. I couldn't catch my breath or anything. I couldn't get anything comfortable at all. Uh, my wife at the time, she came to get me. I happened to be driving down the road, and she was telling me to we have to go to the hospital. I kept telling her, no, 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 I'm fine. I got to go to work or whatever. Well, she wound up taking me to the hospital. So we got to the emergency room, and it just so happened to be one of the nurses that I happen to know from bringing other patients into the hospital with her. So she took one look at me, told me sit down in the wheelchair. We're going right in there. You're having a heart attack. So
Wow.
they took me straight in. They took me straight back to the emergency room, started doing a major workup, having me sign this, sign that, and went up to the cath lab. And the last thing I remember is going from the stretcher to the cath lab table, and I woke up 33 days later at a different hospital with
Wow.
the LVAD.
Oh, all right. So because you were a medical professional, I've always heard that, medical people make the worst patients. Do you think that contributed to, for lack of a better word, your stubbornness?
Yeah, it could have been a little bit. Yeah, you're a guy. You got all the adrenaline with the running fires, running calls, trying to save somebody's life, and that sort of thing. And when I was feeling really bad, I didn't want to go to the hospital. You know how guys are. We don't want to go to the hospital.
Right, right. We're Iron
So
Man.
I was forced to go,
Okay.
which turned out to be a good thing.
So, when you got your calf, did you black out or did they give you anesthesia or?
I'm assuming they gave me anesthesia, and apparently I was having a hard time breathing when I was in the doing recovery, and
Mhm.
I happened, apparently I was staying overnight, so they decided that the hospital I was at couldn't handle with what the problem was, so they're going to transfer me to a second hospital. So
Did
they
they
called.
do it over ambulance or were you airlifted?
Well, they were going to airlift me to Thomas Jefferson University Hospital in Philadelphia,
Mhm.
and because of the weather was being so bad, they had to they granted the hospital, so they all came up to get me. I was hooked up with all kinds of things, had the balloon pump, all kinds of medications and whatnot. And the ambulance crew, picked me up, took me, put me in the back of the ambulance, and they literally turned around and told my parents, said, "Well, you might as well follow him down here because he's not going to make it."
Wow. 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 So who made a decision for them to go ahead and do the LVAD? Did they have to clear it with your wife at the time or?
Literally, the surgeon that I had, he came in there and checked everything out and looked at it, and he, decided that that was the best opportunity. It was either that or dying.
Right.
So they came, my surgeon came out and told my family, he said, "Look, this is what's going on. The best thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to hook you up with an LVAD it's a left ventricle assist device,
Mhm.
and that'll help you and will bridge you over to a heart transplant.
But at this time, you were unconscious, so you had no idea.
That's correct.
Wow. So what was that like waking up with this new piece of equipment?
I had no idea what it was. Even in my years as being an emergency medical technician, I had never even heard of an LVAD before. Very few people had heard of it at the time. And so basically what I did as soon as I found out what it was, I started checking it out, doing research on it and everything like that.
So out of all of my conversations, you're the first person I've talked to that didn't have. I mean, we all had a choice, but didn't have the choice to, have the education before. How was that? Learning how to operate it, because we have very specific needs and ways that we have to go about our life.
Right. Well, I had to, you do a lot of rehabbing and everything out like that, and you have to learn how to take care of yourself. Uh, my family member had to learn how to change the dressing on your drive line to keep it clean and everything like that. Um, what to eat, what not to eat, how I can exercise, different types of things. They're saying most important thing you're going to have to do is starting to learn how to exercise all over again. That's learn from walking, eating, speaking, everything,
Mhm.
just to get strong enough. So I was able to, when the time came, I was able to get a heart transplant.
How long did you stay after your surgery? How long did you have to stay in the hospital?
Let's see. Well, my heart attack was December 8th, 2008, and I went home with the LVAD on February 2000, in February. So I was there for almost a month and a half.
Okay. Okay. How long, once you got home, how was your recovery? How long before you felt quote unquote normal, even though it's not normal anymore? How long before you felt like you were able to get up and go about your normal day-to-day life?
Actually, you started learning that from the very beginning when you're in the when I was in the hospital. They weren't wasting around. They had physical therapy coming in there all the time. Getting you up, moving you around. You know, you basically had to start all over, learn how to walk again, and how to take care of myself. And then as time went on, I had a physical therapist would come while I was at home, so I went out and did that.
Mhm.
And then once I did that, then I had to go and did cardiac rehab.
Which LVAD did you have?
I had the HeartMate 2.
Okay. Okay.
And the HeartMate 2, I know a lot of the LVADs now are a lot, compared to what I have back then to now. Like the batteries I had to carry two batteries with me at all times
Oh
because
yeah.
they
So
only
these
work
should, these,
six
these
hours.
should be familiar with you.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I
Had to
have a
carry the
heartbeat
battery.
too.
Yeah, my battery life only lasted like 6 hours,
Mhm.
but now I've
How-
heard that some of them are like 12 hours now.
On the
Not
three, yeah.
mistaken.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Think I got one of the last threes our hospital put in. After me, they started going to. I mean, I'm sorry, I had one of the last twos, and they started going to the three. And
Right.
I think I believe I had a choice, but we decided to go with something that was more, tested and true than the new one.
Right.
But then once I saw the new one and saw how smaller it was, I was like, "Ah, I wish I would have went
Right.
that route."
Yeah. You don't really. Yeah. See, like me, I didn't have much of a choice. It was either that or not living.
Right.
And then, one of the other things that really drove me nuts was I wasn't allowed to drive.
Yeah, I got a story about that too, but yeah.
Yeah, so I had to be chauffeured around, sitting in the back seat. No, you can't sit in the front seat in case of the
The airbag goes off.
your airbags
You're right.
deploying and all that. Yeah, you can't do this, you can't do that. I used to have to go down every so often to an LVAD clinic, and they would check it and run tests on it and see how I was doing and everything else like that.
Did you ever do any major traveling when you had your LVAD?
Believe it or not, yeah, I did. I went. Well, I live here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania,
Mhm.
and I actually went with my parents, and we went down to the Ocean City, New Jersey, for about a week. So I was going down to the beach, doing a lot of walking around, doing different things. Pretty much didn't. it didn't faze me because I'd gotten so used to it. You know,
Yeah,
nobody.
that's what I like to tell people. After a while, it's just second nature.
Right. You know, and I'd be walking around with it, but you know, people, it's not like people were staring at you like, what's that, or anything else like that. You know, then nobody really paid attention to it. So it just like, it's there. It is what it is.
And the funny thing is, with today's fashion, you have the men walking around with the man bag, the European man
Right.
bag, and a lot of times my batteries pack gets confused for that.
Right.
That's like,
Called it the Merce
right.
from Seinfeld. I called it the Merce, and then I had a little cooler with the batteries on it, and every extra spare batteries with me. Had to carry around.
Right.
You know, that was about the only thing. You know, or I'd go out somewhere and I'd leave the spare batteries at home. They're like, "Where the spare batteries at?" Oh yeah, I forgot them. So you have to go back and get them.
Have you
Grab them.
ever got in trouble leaving your batteries?
No, I actually, the only time I did it a couple of times is if I was at home.
Mhm.
I've actually, you know, let my batteries run down, and then it starts going off. I'm like, oh, gotta go get them, change them in.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I had a couple of close calls. Most of the time it happens to me when I'm not driving. Because if
Right,
I'm driving my car and I got like 3 sets of batteries in my car, I'm good. But
right,
sometimes I forget and will ride with somebody else and not take my backup bag. And yeah, I'm incriminating myself because that's one of the things that my clinic hates. It's like you always have your backup bag with you.
right. Yeah, I had one of the guys I was in the hospital with. He was still out driving around doing this, that, and everything else. He was doing everything he wasn't supposed to do.
Yeah, and that's major, man. I got slowed down. I got home and I felt it might have been 2 weeks after I had my surgery. And I was at the point where I was just starting to feel better, but I wasn't totally healed yet. And in my
Right,
mind, being a man, in my mind, oh, I want to drive. I want to go I miss my car. I had been in the
right.
hospital for
Yeah,
about 2 months myself. I want to drive my car. I want to go.
right,
7-Eleven's about a block up the street. I can make it. Yeah.
right,
I went to 7-Eleven. Everything was good. I got what I wanted, but it felt like on the way home, I felt every little rock in the street,
right.
everything. And I was just so sore. I had to grab my little red pillow. And yeah, I learned my lesson after that. So
Oh yeah. You always, you know how guys are. We don't care until something like this happens, and then you got to remember it. And it's like, oh, I'm going to go drive down the road until you hit a bump. And then you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that.
right, I'm going home now. That's
Yeah,
enough.
right.
So what was it like getting the call for your heart?
That was funny because I got transplanted in October,
Mhm.
and my parents went away for the weekend. My son was out because he was a volunteer firefighter also, and it just happened to be fire prevention week.
Okay.
He wasn't home. Jefferson Hospital calls me up and they said, hey, you have 45 minutes to get down here to the hospital. And so now I'm stuck. I'm calling my parents. I'm telling them they're all the way down in New Jersey. So they had to turn around, come back. My son wasn't around. What had happened was the fire company that I volunteered with, they had 2 ambulances. So the fire chief and somebody else, they took an ambulance, put it out of service. They came and picked me up and took me down to the hospital.
Oh, that's awesome.
So they were like, oh, should we run lights and sirens and all that kind of stuff? I said, no, man, we can just take a normal drive.
Well, I'm glad you see. They always told me that you'll have 4 hours.
Right. I had 45 minutes.
Wow.
And then, I got there. They said, you have to go through the emergency room. I said, okay. So I had them pull the ambulance up at the front emergency exit. I get out and they're like, oh, no, 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 you can't take anybody out of here. I said, look, man, I said, I'm just walking in. They said, no, you got to use the ambulance doors. So we get back in, go through the ambulance doors. I used to work at the hospital, so I know the passcode to get in there. So walk it all the way through the emergency area, all the way back out to the front, just to tell them I'm here for a heart transplant. Instead of just walking in the door, they made me drive all over the place just to get in there again.
Wow. So what was the prep for that?
Well, it was actually kind of funny because they came down, got a wheelchair. We went up to the it was the 5th floor.
Mhm.
because that's the cardiac floor at Jefferson Hospital. So I went down there, went to a room. My parents showed up. We're just sitting in there. It's about 10 or 11 o'clock at night now, and they're saying, "Oh, just relax. The heart's not here yet. Why don't you go ahead and go to sleep?" And I'm looking at the nurse. I'm saying, "Look, I'm about ready to go through major surgery. You expect me to relax and go to sleep? I don't think so." So, yeah. So I guess it was about 5 or 6 o'clock the next morning. He took me down to the operating room,
Wow.
and they prepped me, and that was pretty much it. The thing was 12-hour surgery.
So do you think your recovery was equal to, worse than, or better than the LVAD surgery, comparing the two?
Well, with the heart transplant, I was having a hard time waking up. They took the breathing tube out, but for some reason I was the type that wasn't waking up. So I missed all the pain, when they crack open your chest and all that. So I missed all that. But, once I was waking up, and they're like, "Okay, here come start prepping to get you up, moving around, walking around." I had to learn to do everything all over again. I went down to the rehab floor for about a week, and I learned how to walk again. I learned how to clean and use stuff like putting clothes in the washing machine, taking them out, getting dishes out of a cupboard and everything like that. They taught you how to the right way to sit down, what to do, what not to do, all that kind of things.
All right, crazy question. Afterwards, did you miss your LVAD? Did it feel like something was missing?
Yeah, because it's like you have it there for I had it for 10 months, so it was like always there. And that's one of the things. It's like I absentmindedly reached over, and it's like, hey, it's not laying next to me anymore. That's kind of weird.
So you felt lighter?
Yeah, felt a little bit lighter there. Yeah, definitely.
Good. So did you have any major complications with, or any rejection after you got your new heart?
No, I didn't. Nothing at all for these 11 years until about a month ago, when I wound up having another heart attack. So
okay,
pretty much I've been out of the hospital, except for just going for the getting your catheterizations done and everything else like that.
right.
I was pretty much out.
Do you still work?
I was working up until I had my heart attack.
Okay.
So now they have me on I'm wearing a thing called a life vest, which is an external defibrillator.
Did you have the internal one when you had your LVAD?
No, I never had it before.
Okay.
So this is just something new that I'm getting used to, carrying this thing around with me.
Yeah, I have the internal one that's right about here in my chest.
Okay.
Yeah, and it works. It definitely works. I've had it knock me a couple times.
I've had this thing starting to beat, but I haven't shocked myself, thank God. And I go see my cardiologist tomorrow and find out more of what's going on with if I can go back to work, when I can go back, how long I got to wear this vest and everything else like that.
Once you got your new heart, and you went through your physical therapy, did you feel stronger, or was it about the same with your LVAD?
It was about the same with the LVAD, about the same.
Okay.
And I actually started working out, and one of the things I actually started doing too was a friend of mine, the one that gave me my nickname is Tinman. Her and her boyfriend ran a CrossFit gym.
Okay.
So I was actually going to do CrossFit.
Nice.
And everybody's all looking at me. They're saying, "Are you out of your mind? You're doing CrossFit and you had a heart transplant?"
But you tell them that's why you have the transplant, so you can do stuff like that.
Right. And I used to tell people, you used to have people to be complaining, "Oh, this is hard, that's hard," and everything else like that. And I would look at them. I said, "Look, man, I had a heart transplant. If I can do it, so can you." And they would just like look at you, like, "You had a heart transplant?" I'm like, "Yeah." Pull up shirt. There's the scar. See that?
Yeah, a lot of times when people finally, I come across people And like until COVID came, I was going to the gym every day. And I will come across people and they'll be like, I can't do it. And I have to tell people a lot of times when I explain it to people, I just tell them I have an artificial heart because
Right.
they don't get what an LVAD is. And what
Right.
basically is an artificial heart. And I'm like, yeah, I can do this. I have an LVAD artificial heart. If I can do it, you can do it. I may not be the fastest or the best, but at least I'm doing it.
Right. Right. You got to do it. And people would look at me and they thought I was crazy doing CrossFit. Because within a year I'm doing CrossFit and have a heart transplant.
Yeah, I was
And
talking to one person, and he does martial arts.
yeah, I've known people to doing all kinds of stuff, even with their new hearts. They're out doing all kinds of things. Matter of fact, one of the guys that I follow here on Instagram, he rode his bike from where he lives in California, rode across the United States to go meet his donor family on his bike.
Wow. Wow. You know how many miles or how many states he had to go?
No, I don't. But he did the whole entire thing. He's like, here to see what I got.
Wow.
So I thought it was pretty cool. And then there's another guy. He lives in my area. Not only he had he had a heart transplant and has beaten cancer, and he's run triathlons.
That's awesome. Yeah, I don't know if I want to do a triathlon though.
Yeah, but it's crazy. There's a lot of people. A lot of people. I've talked with people in the hospitals and stuff like that. I've literally talked to patients saying it doesn't matter how old you are, you will get a heart transplant if you want it. I've
Yeah,
talked with people with LVADs, never had LVADs. I've shared my story many a times,
awesome.
and I
So
still talk about organ donation all the time.
yes, yes, organ donation is very important, and it really, when you get in this situation, it really hits home. And I'm an advocate for it because there's a lot of people that are just a whole lot of misconceptions, and people are
Right,
scared, and people, the stories where you wake up in the bathtub with missing
right,
your
yeah,
kidneys and stuff.
right. I mean, I actually had a guy when I was renewing my driver's license, and they were talking about, oh, you want a organ donation? I'm like, yep, always have been, always will be. And this guy's like, oh no, they did. They're gonna wind up killing you. I turned around and I said, looked at him. I said, look, pal, my job was volunteer firefighter and emergency medical technician. I didn't kill you just so somebody could have an organ. My job was to save your life, not kill you.
Right.
Same with the doctors and everybody. We did everything in our power to make sure you lived. We didn't, I didn't search. We don't search pockets to see whether or not you're an organ donor or not.
Yeah, you just got to do. You got to treat everybody. You got to try to save their life. That's something you'll find out later on.
Right.
But your job right then and there is to try to save them.
Right, and I've had a bunch of people that have literally turned around and became organ donors because of me, because they've seen that it's actually happened, it's actually true, and here's the real deal.
Right. Right. All right. I'm getting ready to close this down. What are your last words? What kind of advice do you have for anyone out there that's considering getting an LVAD and going down this road?
If you're going to get an LVAD, just take everything one day at a time. Pay attention to your body. Pay attention to your doctors. Always reach out, talk to somebody, and research. Always research. I'm always here. If anybody ever wants to talk to me on Instagram, they can find me on Instagram, whatever, anywhere.
Give everybody your Instagram handle.
Yeah, my Instagram handle is Tinman2009. I'm going on 12 years with a new heart.
Awesome.
I've met my family, my
you
donor family.
have, you have.
I've met my donor family.
How long before? I mean, afterwards, did you meet them?
About 8 years.
Okay.
And when I met the mother, first words out of her mouth says, "I've been waiting 8 years to meet you."
Wow.
When her son, unfortunately, her son was murdered.
Oh.
So he wound up, donating his organs, and that's her biggest thing. Is she wanted to meet everybody that got her son's organs. The only people that she's met was me. That got his heart, and another guy got her son's lungs.
Okay.
So, Those are the only two people she's met, and we actually live close to each other, believe it or not. So, you know, it's pretty amazing, because I never known how close they were, because, you know, some other people have met people, you know, different organs, different parts of, you know, United
Right.
States or whatever.
Right.
And I just happened to be within 20 minutes of each other.
Well, you gained a heart and a family.
Oh yeah, you got a second family too.
That's awesome. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and conclude our conversation. Again, thank you, Kevin, for taking the time out and talking with us today.
It's my pleasure, Sean. My pleasure.
Awesome. This has been Kevin, a.k.a. the Tinman. I'm Sean, and we are out.